Hello and welcome. See, here's the thing. My name's Raziel. Sorry. Introduction should always come first. That's good manners. Anyway, here's the thing. The Warhammer 40k universe is getting to a point where it makes you ask questions, but not the sort of questions I think GW wants you to ask. And the one that's got me right now is, why is the Emperor so stupid? Like, he's a complete dolt. He's an idiot. He's meant to be the most intelligent person in the galaxy. That's human, so, you've got the Eldar there as well. But he just is so dense. Right, let's talk about the creation of the Astartes and the Primarchs, right? This is the one that really shows his level of stupidity. He creates these superhuman beings. He adds more organs to the Astartes. He steals power from the gods. I don't know if that's meant to be some sort of reference to the Titan that stole fire from the gods, who I completely forget the name of right now. But this idea of stealing the power of gods to create these superhumans makes him seem less intelligent, because most of the things that Astartes could do could be genetically manipulated with science, just completely. From the immunity to diseases, and the strength, the durability, the necessity to sleep, all of that could be, even like the loyalty side, could be just done with a lot of genetic modification, and the no fear side. Now, this is going to be very simplified, mostly because I forget the names of the genes. And the first one is, like, the human body is incredible. I freaking love the human body. We have such power within us. Our muscles, for the average person, could lift 3 tons. However, our bones wouldn't take it. They would shatter our bones, sort of thing. And our bones are incredibly strong already. So we could be incredibly strong. However, like, our bones and our joints wouldn't be able to take it. We would just really snap out. We would just shatter. And there is a gene that stops us from doing it. It's a gene that restricts us from being that strong. And I forget the name of the gene that does it. I really should look up more of it. But it's interesting stuff. The fact that we know this today, in the third millennium, right? 27,000 years prior to the Emperor's ascension to the Emperor of mankind, this is knowledge we know. And according to the law, he has an eidetic memory, so he should know this too. We could easily surmise that the Emperor would know this, that the human body can do this, and the genetic knowledge we have today, he would know, and he could have implemented that into his Astartes, or even his Primarchs. And then, like I said, there is a gene that stops us doing these superhuman strength things, because shatter our bones. There is a gene which people may have. You can only know this gene if you have this gene, if you test for it. It's not bad for you. It's good for you. It's actually very good for you, but it doesn't do you any harm, and it increases the density of your bones by double the bone density. Again, this is something that can be manipulated. That could have been manipulated by the Emperor to, make the bones even stronger, so we could do the superhuman things. Again, you wouldn't know you have this gene. There are some symptoms, like you don't really float, you tend to sink. That's literally the only one. And, you could go through having lots of damages and never breaking a bone in your life. I think I might have it because I got hit by a Land Rover and ended up with just a bruised collarbone. No, that's not even a joke. Like, I got run over by a Land Rover and that's all I had was a bruised collarbone. And so these are 2 genes that exist. You turn one off to restrict the other one. You turn the other one on, or implement it into a human being, and you have this person who is very strong, has the stronger bones, and is just a superhuman based on the average person's genes. So now if we go to diseases, now the thing is with diseases and viruses, especially viruses, what actually kills people at the end, I think it's called a static storm, probably pronounced that wrong, and it literally just kills the body. It just overheats it, it murders the body. It's to kill the virus, it kills the host at the same time. I think it's to stop it spreading. It might be because we are social animals, so if our immune system, for the greater of everyone, was to destroy the host and the body to kill the virus, would stop it from spreading. That's what happens. Again, this is something that's genetic. Your immune system is very good. It is incredible. But that's like a last thing it does. Very last. Most of the symptoms we face from diseases is the immune system reacting to that virus. That's what it is. The flushes, the hives, the bleeding from the ears and stuff. That's the immune system doing that, not just the virus. Just how it's attacking the virus. Again, this is very simplified stuff. I don't really want to go that deep into it, but again, it does show that we have this knowledge today, even on this very basic level, that the Emperor would know, but he didn't implement it on a genetic level within the Astartes to make Astartes over Primarchs, but instead still stealing this power from the warp to do this. And then it comes to here's the weird part. This is where it gets really weird. There's been a lot of work on the mirror neurons within the brain when it comes to psychic abilities. Some people think that telepathy might be the next evolutionary step for us. We're seeing a lot of research within the mirror neurons, like the way they work. It's kind of the one that gives you that gut feeling when you think something is wrong. It's where we pick up these very small things within someone to think, look, I don't trust that person. I know this is kind of obvious, but there is a belief that this might be leading to telepathy within humans. Believe it or not, right? It's just doing what I'm reading. I don't really want to go into the deep science of all this, unless you want me to, and that would take a very long video for me to do all that. Again, even if that is something that might be today, with the Emperor being as intelligent as he's meant to be, would have been able to adapt that within the Primarchs to give them psychic abilities, It's just saying that there was no necessity for the warp to even be part of the plan of making the Primarchs or making the Astartes. There is absolutely zero. The thing is, this whole thing about stealing from the Emperor, stealing from the warp, always seemed odd to me. It always made me feel like the Emperor didn't know what he was actually doing, that he wasn't that intelligent. He was, at best, a grifter. He was letting on that he knew stuff, but he constantly has been to have powers and told how to do stuff from other people, like the Chaos Gods or stealing their power, whatever, rather than doing it himself. And then there's the extra organs part and the gene seed. This is one of the biggest plot holes I see. The gene seed part is so problematic within the law. It makes this huge plot hole. But the gene seed sort of nerfs the Emperor's abilities to create a superhuman. The Custodian Guard has all this great, genetically engineered bodies. They do not have a gene seed. They can be made by pretty much everyone. It's just the testing that kills them. And to be fair, most of them are babies, so I'm not surprised it kills them. Right? But you see what I mean? He made the Custodians without the gene seed, which has a very high success rate of actually being able to create a custody person, right? Without the training and extras and testing and all that, okay? Just the custodian template for the human body. But with the gene seed, it has to be able to be accepted into it as well. Which, again, this is problematic, but you'd have the better ones without the gene seed. It's just silly. Why would you have one with the custodies using... Why wouldn't you have one with the custodies using, humans of nobility and testing, and then have lesser tests for the normal soldiers, Astartes, with the same abilities and strengths as the Custodes, but not trained so hard. So the Custodes would be higher, more elite, and you need to have like lesser Custodes, and then you'd be able to literally get anyone from the population to become this custodian level strength, stronger than Astartes, at the same time, without the restrictions of a gene seed and the implication that it therein brings, such as the gene seed flaws, where the Imperial Fists just sit and cry, where the Space Wolves turn into wolves, and the Blood Angels going absolutely nuts and drinking blood and turning into big, horrid, hulking beasts. All of this was completely unnecessary to the creation of the Astartes and creation of the Primarchs. This whole stealing from the warp and everything else was just, I don't know if it was some sort of MacGuffin or some sort of plot point to make it seem edgier. All it added was the Emperor's kind of thick. He's kind of stupid to do what he did. And that's it. Okay? Whereas, just a sensible, if he just used his head for 15 seconds, when hold on, I don't need the warp to create superhumans. I don't need the warp to do any of this. The fact he knows faith itself is incredibly important, and the lack of faith can harm the Chaos Gods. He knows this. He didn't need the Chaos Gods at all to create his plan. How, if he didn't use the warp, the Great Crusade probably would have been far more successful, because Lorgar wouldn't have been an orator, or the Chaos Gods wouldn't have been speaking to him as much, because they didn't want revenge, because the Emperor stole their powers and just put the Primarchs asunder, and distributed them evenly across the universe, galaxy I should say. That wouldn't have happened. This would have been all done under their, just under their radar. But because he stole it, all of a sudden he's on their map. They know for him. They're going to follow him. They're going to watch him. They're going to try and stop him because he stole from them. I know this is, again, very simplified. So the Emperor sort of brought this all on himself. He would have had, the Great Crusade would have been successful if he just used his head instead of stealing power from the warp. Use genetic manipulation to create stronger people. Again, there's the genes I forget the name of. Suppress the static storm. Again, probably pronounced this wrong. How he could have used the Mechanicum, whichever one it is. I always forget, right? Why didn't we just keep it? It just seems silly. To create, organs within the... If he needed an extra heart, the extra lung, the extra kidney, all of that, right? Why didn't he just go to the Mechanicum and say, look, I'm building this army. Can you help me with this? They already think he's the Omnissiah. They'll be like, okie dokie. And again, there would be no necessity for anything else. In anything, it would probably be a more durable body with mechanical extra organs for the filtration of poisons and the, removal and all of that. But, just seemed a bit silly for him to go down the route he did just to do that. And by the way, just in case you're wondering, human bites are highly bacterial as well. I know they have this acid spit, which has never been used that I can think of in a story. Maybe once. Yeah, I think once it's been used. But as outside of that, never again. And it just, like I said, this seems like this weird thing that's happening, that the Emperor stealing the power of a god just adds more questions than answers. So I'm doing some modelling. Rather than being a sensible person and doing without that, and actually probably been successful at the same time. Anyway, what's your thoughts? I hope you all have a good day. I'll see you in the next one. If you wish to save some money on your wargaming, there's Wayland Games down below for up to 20% off and free delivery after £20. There is Forbidden Planet for comic DVDs, mangas, Audibles down there for a 30-day free trial as well. Some really cool books on there. War of the Worlds, H.P. Lovecraft. What else is there? or 1984. That's a good one. I really like 1984. It's a good book as well. There's my merchandise, comics, DVDs, comics, T-shirts, cups, no DVDs, and there's what else is there? Skyforge, a good friend of mine, and finally Patreon, which I really need to do something with. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.